Right, regular knife guy here again. So today, see laid out before you here, we got some tools. We're going to talk a little bit about the various knife tools, knife disassembly tools, right? Tools that are out there that you can use to take apart your knives. Options out there for you, a few of the options, right? And some of the options that I like to use. Uh, right dead center, you can see right here, right? I got two of the two of the production bits or contractor packs that Weehaw sell. Right, I really like their Weehaw bits. Um, they make the T6s and the T8s. They make them available in large packs. Right, T8 contractor packs for the T8s and production packs they call them for the T6s. Generally, I try to buy my bits in bulk this way um, because nothing gets under my skin. Like a real nice knife with boogered up hardware, right? I mean, you've all seen it, right? There's that knife that the guy's taken apart 16 times, and with the same ratchet, freaking, blown out T8 Torx bit, right? And it's just grubbed up his hardware, right? And it sometimes, like in the case of this guy right here, right? Replacement hardware is readily available, right? But it's expensive, right? And in the case of a lot of other knives, you just might not ever be able to get replacement hardware for it, and now you're stuck with that, that grunged out, terrible, terrible hardware. Um, so I generally stick to the German brands. Weehaw, the the ubiquitous Wera. Um, they tend to be very consistent at their Torxes, and their Torx bits are available in a non-security version. And what I mean by that is a lot of the cheap sets of Torxes that you procure off of the Amazon are for security bits. So they're for security screws. They have a little hole down the center, um, and they tend to be they tend to twist a lot more. They tend to be softer. They tend not to hold up. Um, and generally they tend to be a little bit looser, in the tighter screws. We're going to be doing a service on this knife here in just a little bit. Um, his their screws are precision, right? They're an extremely tight fit, and they're that way for a reason. So a loose screw or a loose driver, you're gonna round out those sharp edges in those Torx bits, and they're gonna look like junk. They're gonna look like ass, right? So spread out before you here is a variety of Torx type tools. Probably the most ubiquitous, or the one that's at least suggested the most, is the good old Wera, you know, short and dumpy driver. Sorry, the Weehaw in this case, the Weehaw, you know, bit selection set. It's a good set. It's a good starter set. It's got every size bit you'll ever need, right? And it comes in a nice little convenient pack. If you don't have an actual driver handle, that's fine, because you can use the actual extension bit that comes with it right through there, and then use the case as a handle. Um, I don't use it all that often, just because for 90% of what you do, right, a T6 and a T8 is going to suffice, right? And once you round those two bits over, you're left with a set, missing two. So I usually try to use that for maybe the odd size stuff, like the much bigger stuff, T12s or T10s or whatnot. And then I stick to the bulk packs for the T6s and T8s, and I inspect that bit every time I use it. Especially the littler ones like T6s, right? As soon as they start showing any kind of a sign of wear, into the shit can they go, because I'm not life's too short to worry about screwing up, messing up, good screws. There's also a couple alternatives here. We have the Weehaw winged driver set, which is a T6 through T20. I keep these right here on the edge of my bench, and this is probably the other set of drivers that I use the most, just because it's convenient. I can instantly grab a T15 or a T10 or a T8. Um, they have a very convenient shape in that they're kind of torque limited, and that if you grasp them with your two fingers, there's only so much pressure that can be applied, and that it keeps you from stripping out your screw, as well as it's got the additional little speed nub in here for spinning them in. But it's also very convenient for holding on to the other side of, say, a pivot while I drive on the opposite side. So they're usually really convenient for that. And then, on the odd chance that I need to grab a T15 or a T20, or I need an extra T8 for the other side of the pivot, they're right there. And I'm not hunting through bits, loading them into drivers. Congruent with that, right? You've got the good old L wrenches, right? These are the Weha Torx, the 363 HM7s. They're a very, very high quality Torx driver, and they're a T6 through a T20 as well. And then they're in the L shape. They're in the like the ubiquitous Allen keys, right? They have the short end for really torquing on it. They've got the long end for torque limiting, so you don't strip your screws out or reaching into a deep hole. And they're convenient. And somebody with just a few knives, or somebody that doesn't consistently take their knives apart, for no good reason whatsoever, like the rest of us do. This little set right here would probably be all you'd ever need. Piece of 550 cord on there, so you can hang it on stuff and not lose it, and you're set, right? You're good to go. They're also really convenient if you really got to torque down on say a like some companies like to just absolutely flood their hardware with Loctite, and even with with the old soldering iron tip held to the screw for 15 minutes to try to burn some of it off, right? Sometimes it can be hard to get them screws out. And in the L configuration, it does give you just a little bit more to hold on to when you're really trying to torque them pivot screws or body screws out. So now that I've kind of showed you the full array here of my bits, I'm gonna push this stuff over to the side here, and we will continue to talk about the hardware. All right. So going along with the bits, right, there are driver handles, right? And we all know, again, we got the Weha short, fat, and stubby here, right? Easily would, if this is the only driver handle you own, it is you will die fine, right? It's the standard, 1/4 inch bit holder. It's got a nice little rubber handle, over molded rubber handle on a hard plastic base. You can really grab onto it. It has some square flat edges for you to get a really good grip. It's got a nice little flat portion in the front, so you can just gingerly turn those screws, right? And for 90% of what we do, this thing is absolutely 100% fine, right? But this is knives, right? We spend ludicrous amounts of money on multiple knives, when in all reality, all we need is that one good one, right? So obviously you can't just stop there with the one, right? Another one I like, right, is the Wera. Wera is a German company. I believe they're German or Spanish. They make fantastic products. They make fantastic driver handles. I have another one similar to this. It's a little bit larger, that actually has an auto locking feature to hold the bits. Um, it has borrowed and been disappeared somewhere into my son's room, into the caverns under his bed, and it was not available for this filming. But it too has a good magnet screw stick to it really well. It is really comfortable. You can really get in there and turn it, and it's comfortable. It's a couple of bucks, right? And both of those, the Wera and the Weha are more than serviceable for anything you're ever gonna do, right? But it's knives, right? Right. We like fancy things, right? So now you got the fancy drivers. This guy here, this is the CRKT. I believe it's the CRKT version of one made by another company. The name escapes me right now, but know, they're quite a bit more expensive. The CRKT one I think was $30. It's a good driver. It's got a fantastic bearing. It spins well. You know, for my hands, for the size of my hands, I can easily get the bearing in the palm while keeping my fingers on the knurling to do some precision spinning of the bits. It works really really well for $30. It's, you know, it's nice, right? I hesitate to show you this one, but I saw it on Amazon and it was $15, and it was titanium. Um, I'm sure there is somebody out there with some monstrous gorilla hands that this thing would fit amazingly well for. They're not mine. Um, it's $15 and it says it's titanium. That's about all you can actually say for it. It says it says titanium cage, 5BK, whatever. Um, yep, it's titanium ish driver, long screwdriver thing, and it works. Um, Not a big fan of this particular company, but I do like their driver. Um, it works really well. It does not use magnets to retain the driver. Instead, it uses a collet style system. And so, if you've got some of that hardware where the bit likes to get stuck in there, and when you go to pull it out, it leaves the bit behind. This is an excellent driver. It's it's very comfortable. You know, it fits in the hand very well. It's got a lot of little nice little flats and indents for you to get your fingers into to do some turning, and it's a very nice tool. And even for its size, for as large and chunky as it is, it it's very light, being mostly titanium with a lot of milling in it. It's a very nice product. And really, my big gripe with MaxAce has always been their lackluster hardware. Very little hardware in this knife, right, or in this driver. So it does work out really well, and I would have absolutely no problems recommending it. I think it was like a $79 tool, which, yeah, compared to the Wera and the Weehaw, $79 is a pretty extravagant amount of money to pay for a driver. Um, but yeah, I mean, if you want some nice fancy drivers to go with your nice fancy knives, I would wholeheartedly recommend this guy. It does have a glass breaker in it, or a glass breaking tip. So for you tactical window breaking types, I guess this will do double duties and taking your knives down and operating as an operator while tactically breaking out windows. So nice driver. And last but definitely not least is this gem here. Um, got it on Etsy. Comes from Israel. This particular gentleman makes a lot of different drivers, a lot of different sizes, a lot of different weights and body diameters and designs. And yes, it was, I think, $110 on Etsy. Took about 8 days to get here from Israel, so not bad at all. The bearing in it is amazing. The weight is amazing. The machining and the detail. It's a beautiful driver. It's like $110, right? So so maybe you hold off on this until you've gotten a couple of your unicorn knives and you've got some money to spare, I guess. I do like it. I do like the shorter size drivers that I can get my thumb and pointer finger on here to turn those screws on. I can lightly pinch it so I don't strip my screws out, or if I really got to bear down, I can really get a thumb into one of those flutes there and give it a good turn. It is a great driver. It's easily one of my favorite. So now that I've bored you to death on something as esoteric as drivers, we're just going to briefly touch on bits here. So as I said before, I buy my bits in bulk, right? I buy the bulk packs, and that is so that I can inspect them before I use them. You know, and I'm not I don't get out here with a jeweler's loupe, right? You hold them up to a light, you can see the shiny spots, you can see any kind of rough edges. What I've noticed is not generally with brand new bits out of the pack, but maybe using them a couple of times will knock off a little spur of metal or something towards the tip, you know, and that's generally what not something to worry about unless you're using anodized screws, right? Unless your knife has some real pretty, anodized screws, you don't want to scratch that finish. Generally, what I do, just in case catch any little burrs, I use just a little emery, a little emery board, snag it real quick, and that is usually sufficient to get any kind of little hanging burrs or anything that might booger up my screws a bit, and that's about it, But that's sufficient, right? As soon as I start seeing any kind of twist in the flutes of the Torx driver, anytime I start, noticing starts getting crunched there towards the end, that's it, right? In the shit can it goes. New screw bit comes out, and then, we don't worry about it anymore. I'm not gonna I don't know what I didn't check beforehand, but I'm not sure what the anodized titanium hardware sets are going for right now for the Hinderer. I just remember it being kind of ridiculous, but of course, because I'm an addict, I paid it anyways, but well out of proportion for what you should be paying for titanium hardware. But that's what you do when you have a problem, right? You keep feeding the monkey. Um, Having said that, I don't want to buy them twice. Okay, I'm fine with the color they are. They match the rest of the knife fine, and I can't dip into my kids' college tuition to buy another set of hardware, another set of hardware for my Hinderer. So we're going to protect their education by protecting these screws. Um, so yeah, that's kind of my thoughts and my treatise here on hardware. You also, some knives you might encounter. You're going to need some tools in addition to, right, the standard Torx drivers, right. Right here with the Hinderer, right, we do have the flathead and the spanner drive on the back. I do have a set of drivers that I procured on Etsy. These little guys here. I don't ever, almost never use the spanner drive. The friction of it in the lock side of the scale is enough to hold that portion of the pivot in, and so generally I'll use the flathead side, and or when I'm lazy, I grab for a penny or a dime. But since we've transitioned to a plastic world, I find myself not having available pennies and dimes quite as often as I used to. But there are a few higher end knives out there that do require an odd mix, or that do have an odd mix of hardware, and will require you to have tools in addition to the ones shown to you. Hinderer comes to mind. I know they changed their hardware up quite a bit. Sometimes it's big, giant, fat, huge T25 Torx bits. Sometimes it's Allen's. Now a lot of their bigger knives have that 6 shooter pivot on it. Um, they require additional tools. They don't necessarily encourage you to disassemble their knives, in so many words. So tools, specialized tools for that aren't as readily available as they are for some other knife companies. Olamic is another company that has kind of an odd pivot, but I'm pretty sure they're nice enough to include a tool with their knives to disassemble their pivots. There's Strider. Strider has kind of a weird Hinderer esque style pivot. I believe it has a hollow center bolt, so it requires a slight nipple tool. And then of course there's some fancy automakers out there that under no circumstances want you to disassemble one of their knives, and so they use some very odd shaped screw heads, and when you can find the nice bits for it, they are at ludicrous prices. So and sometimes you'll need two or three different sizes for one knife. So we won't be demonstrating one of those today. Um, So yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts on hardware here before I go and do a quick service on the Hinderer here. It's a frequently carried knife, maybe not frequently used. You know, it's hard justifying whipping it out to do anything more aggressive than break down some of the Amazon packages, but it does get carried quite a bit. I do like having it in my pocket, and it is a lint magnet, so it will be on the bench of healing today to give it a quick cleanup. All right. I will not bore you to death with the breakdown, another breakdown video of the Hinderer. Really not what was the intent of this video, but just as a kind of a you know an example, as to why you might want to pay just a little bit more attention to the tools you're using to disassemble your knives. And like I'd mentioned earlier about another knife company that uses a some substandard hardware, right? You wouldn't know that if you were also using substandard tools. So yeah, if you're new to knives and you were like me and you searched the tubes for a video on knife disassembly tools and you came up with Butkus, hopefully you will find this video. All these tools, with the exception of some of the random drivers, right? They're all available on Amazon. I think I got 90% of them on Amazon, with the exception of some of the more the prettier drivers here. I got those on Etsy and various stores. So yeah, take a look, search the webs, right, and and start building up your tool collection before you start building up your knife collection, right? It would be a shame to ruin a couple of really high end knives that you saved and pined and waited impatiently at the mailbox for just to round out one of the screw heads. All right, this is the Regular Knife Guy channel out.